Hey, what's up, guys? So, two quick things. This deck is a little bit of an edit from a previous deck from prototyping that I had. And the best of three games at the end of this little deck tech will have some issue with my audio and recording, so I kind of dubbed over it. I hope that's not too big of an issue for most people, but we're just going to kind of jump into this deck real quick and take a peek at it. And it's my LEOLOCK deck. I don't know how many of you guys have seen my first video on this a while back, but with the changes to Trident of Poseidon, um, it's a very, very strong deck, in my opinion. And the best of three is an insane best of three. Everyone in the Discord call that we were playing with is like top 8 player from the tournament, and we were just having a good time testing decks. And let's just quickly go over this deck. So, what's the deck trying to do? It is trying to get out Leonite is 7/2 for 2 fire. As long as it's in attack position, players can't cast and invoke runes. And so we're trying to get that out with a Hammer of Hephaestus on it so that our opponent can't use Celestial effects on our Leonite, and our opponent and a Trident Poseidon so our opponent can't cast counter runes. Ideally, we get out Hephaestus, Hammer of Hephaestus first for the Elestral lock, and the invoke rune lock, so that way they can only stop Leonite with counter runes. And if they can only stop Leonite with counter runes, we can just not attack into their shield and stuff like that until we get our Trident out. So ideally, we get Leonite, Poseidon, Hephaestus, Hammer Hephaestus, and Poseidon out, Trident Poseidon out, leaving Leonite at a +6 attack, being a 13 attack. Our opponent won't be able to cast invoke runes, our opponent won't be able to cast counter runes, and they cannot target Leonite with Elestral effects. That's the goal of the deck. The rest of the deck, we have 2 Phlyracnes. They're a little bit of a stall fire card. I'm testing them right now. I think they're coming out of the deck. They don't do enough usually, but it is a fun card to use, and sometimes it solves your opponent out a lot. Foamy helps us get to our Leonite because you just foamy to go get any of your other water 1 drops, and enchant it with fire misenchanted after the foamy gets destroyed to get the Leonite. Amphirex, same thing with foamy. Use it to go get it out of your underworld, bring it back into play, ascend it to Leonite. Kinleo is just solid removal. It's a 3/1. It requires some Nexusing to do work, so in this deck, it's not the greatest removal, but in Fire Water with the limited resources that this deck has, it's a nice proactive removal card to have. Again, Poseidon, Hephaestus, Hammer Hephaestus, Trident Poseidon, those are the cards we're trying to get into play with Leonite to get the lockout. Aphoros is a good draw thing, and with Foamy, you can go get your Aphoros. If you have another Aphoros in hand, then you can have 2 Aphoros in play, try to do some Nexus exchanging, draw some cards. Smeltuga is there to go fetch out Kinleo. It's there to fetch out Amphirex, and it's a 5 defender off of Foamy if we need to use it for that. And then I have Vertaqua and Kraken here as a little bit of kind of support toolbox for the Foamies. So Kraken, foaming into a Kraken to stop another attack is useful. Vertaqua, getting a Vertaqua to play when we have a Tsunami ready to go is very strong. And Vertaqua in general is a strong card, so I have Vertaqua in the deck. Then I have one, I'm probably going to make it 2 Rise from Ashes, because if you watch any game of the following best of 3, watch game 2, maybe, I think it was game 1 or 2, but I completely clutch out a win against a full board of my opponent's stuff with Rise from the Ashes. I think it's become a 2-drop in this deck. It's very, very powerful in this deck since we are focused around one major 2-drop. Drops Elite is a great early draw card. It helps us cycle to find the cards we need for the combo. I will probably add a 3rd one to the deck and take out a Nectar of Gods. Once we get Leonite out, our Invoke Runes are shut down anyway, so having too much Invoke Runes feels a little rough, but it's what we need to get to the lock in the first place. 3 Shields of Achilles, because as most people know, that's a very strong removal card. I might make it 2 Shields of Achilles, try to get 2 Poison Tipped Arrows in there. A couple Ambrosias, a couple Tsunamis, and again that Kraken. That's the general deck. I run 11 water and 9 fire. You could run probably 10 and 10 without too much of an issue. I run the 11 fire because I expend a little bit of fire more so with the Amphirex and getting to Leonite than I do using all the water. So I think I might punch up the fire a little bit. But that's the deck. Enjoy the best of 3. It was an insane best of 3. It was such a good game. I hope you guys enjoy it, and please don't mind that overdub. see you in a bit with that game. Oh, deck list. Here's the deck list for you real fast in case you wanted an image form. All right, onto the game. See you in a moment. All right, and we are back. So, running into the game, I decided to go first with this hand. I have a couple shields. I have Tsunami, and I have Hephaestus to get out my artifact combo pieces. I don't have Leonite yet, but this deck doesn't always have Leonite early. And then my opponent's gonna play his Earth deck. He starts out with the Nectar of Gods. Nectar of Gods, we all know, is a very strong card. It early game, it just adds extra cards basically.
Okay.
Very solid. And you'll hear, occasionally Jacob, Quino, and occasionally Jay Johnny speak in the background. This Discord call had 4 of us who were all top 8 players in ELESTRALs. I technically am not top 8. I judged that game, but we're on the call hanging out. This Roma Gem I had no response to. I don't think I would respond to it anyway. I assumed he was going to get Tectorus or maybe a Victor's or Viserys, but he ended up getting an Equal Link, which is a fair play because I do have 2 face downs. He sets his face downs, crashes to my Foamy. I expected that to happen, but in this deck, I want my Foamy to die. Or not necessarily I want my Foamy to die, but I expect my Foamy to die. I spent a moment searching here. I ended up pulling out an Aphros with water because I still don't have my Leonite. I don't know what I'm getting up to, and then I just draw my Leonite. So I'm like, okay, now I gotta figure a way how to get this Leonite out with the misenchant Aphros. Now I could just misenchant my Leonite, but that face down could be risky. So I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do here. So one option I had was maybe just play Hephaestus with water to draw an extra card. And just Nexus the 1 water to Aphros. But instead I was like, you know what, I have a pretty solid back row. Let me just add my Spirit for turn to my Aphros and pass turn and protect it with my back row. And not waste my Hephaestus, not waste my Leonite. Just not risk the play until I'm fully set up. Threw off my opponent a little bit. Then this is going to be that Equal Links. I thought he was going to play Equal Links, but he ended up playing Tectorus. I think he was afraid that maybe I had Poison Tip to knock out the Equal Links, or he didn't have something to Nexus with to knock out runes with. So I'm like, great, cool. I just Tsunami here, lay out his board, and I draw the Poseidon. I'm like, oh, this is like so perfect. I can go get my Poseidon, play Trident Poseidon, and then I realize that I don't have the rune spaces here. So I still go into the Leonite and pray that he didn't have a Poison Tip, which he didn't, so Leonite stuck. Great, And it's like, now I'm just kind of thinking, like, is there any way I can get all these things out? Hephaestus, Hammer Hephaestus, Spider, try, and there's not. So I'm like, okay, let me just start getting my Hephaestus out and start digging for those artifacts that I need to play to, really protect the lockdown. So I don't want to fill up my rows too much, but I figure, he's got a counter rune face down. If I just kind of spend 1 on Hephaestus, I could go just dig it for Trident and play Poseidon, but it's like, you know what? I think what's more risky here is the Celestial interaction. So I go 2 and find a Hammer of Hephaestus to protect from the Celestial and the Invoke runes, as well as get my Leonite up to a 9 attack. And now my question is to myself, how do I deal with that back row card? Do I just attack and hope it's not a shield? Do I pass turn? I wasn't quite sure. I do have a 9 attacker on board. I felt it was very strong. And here I'm just rearranging my board. It didn't matter too much the order, so my opponent just let me rearrange my board for clarity. And then I pass turn because I'm not attacking into that face down. It could be a shield, and then I wasted all those resources for nothing. So I'm going to wait till I get my back row open to play Poseidon and Trident as well, stopping the counter runes and stopping my opponent in the process. And then after some thinking, he's like, all right, let me get my Equal Links out, start dealing with your back row. Figure that's more than fair. I do have a very strong back row right now. Played his Scythe, and now I'm thinking, is he going to just turn his Tectorus into attack over my Leonite? That's not very good.
Yeah, I'll nexus onto the equal links, and I'll get rid of
So his Tictorus
your
is currently at a
cancel.
+5 right now. Could run over a lot of things.
Switch Tauros to attack.
He knocks out the
And
hammer, so I'm no longer immune to Lestral effects, which isn't super relevant in this matchup.
so right now, Tauros will attack over your Leonite.
And I'm not losing my Lead Knight after all that work. Shield it, even though it's a 1-cost card, he can replay it. Shielding it, he's not getting over this. And I have the ability to stop counter runes on my turn, so I know that I can get Poseidon and Trident Poseidon out and stop those counter runes, and that's what I go for here. So now I know I can get rid of the equal links and all of those spirits sitting on that equal links. Really make sure that I don't have to deal with that Tectorus again being at 8 when I am not at 8.
That's what you're up to.
So this now puts my Leonite back to 9, and I'm now shutting off counter runes, and I'm shutting off invoke runes for my opponent. And I replay the hammer for the extra stats,
Interesting.
just to push him up to a 12 attack here. I don't have the Celestial Protection now, but it does at least push me to that 12. And I'm just sitting here thinking maybe I add an extra Spirit to Leonite, but I'm getting a little low at 4, so let me not go for an absurd amount of damage here. Attack the equal links,
That is even on spirit, so I take it.
and just do even damage here. Nothing
Alright.
crazy.
I will draw for turn.
I'm still afraid of that Tectorus in hand if he's got another Scythe.
Begin to deal with this.
I'm still afraid of maybe Viserys and Scythe, but I really think I have the win here. Just, a nice full lockdown. Maybe he runs like a boom bat or something I'm worried about, but overall I think I had the game in the bag at this point.
List for an equal links and defense.
It took him a little bit to
And
figure out what he wanted to do with that play.
to get rid of Trident.
And he's knocking out my Trident here. I'm like, that I did not expect the second equal links. That knocks out my Trident. And the reason I checked Trident there is Trident used to protect itself with Poseidon, but it no longer did.
I will.
So now it's like, okay, he just knocked out my Trident. He definitely, and then played two phase. It's like, okay, he definitely has shield here. There's, what can I do against this? I was just so threatened right now. I didn't know really where I could go unless I drew another, like, were to find another Trident. So it's like, okay, let me start with Kraken here. Shut off the equal links for a turn. Maybe dig a little bit further since I do have that counter and face down and see if I can find another Trident. Hopefully. So right now my game plan is protect my Kraken with a shield, keep his equal links locked down with Kraken, and see where it goes. And then my opponent makes a misplay because of the Kraken change. Kraken used to only stop attacking. It now stops abilities and attacking. He didn't realize it first, so I let him re-equip the Scythe to Tectorus instead. And that's just an issue with, the new cards being a little bit awkward for people to read. Not read, but understand when we were used to the old cards, so I let him swap his equip. Yeah, he really shoved a giant Tectorus into my face here. It's worse when it's a Valkyries and I have only fire in my deck. Then he tries to attack my Kraken. I'm like, nope. And then he's like, oh, Leonite? Still nope. Play that shield. Get rid of all those extra spirits. And now I'm looking at my deck. I have exactly enough spirits for, I'm like, okay, I got 2 spirits in my spirit deck. Got exactly what I need to stop with Trident. I'm like, oh, but that Vertaqua, that deals with the equal links, and I can start attacking with Kraken too. Maybe I do that instead of digging for the Trident, which is less likely to come. Let me work with what I got here and try to work through that. Attack him for Kraken. He doesn't respond. And then I pass turn. I'm not attacking that Leonite. I still need that Leonite to shut off stuff. And my opponent's turn, he plays out that Viserys big card. I have no way to stop it. Now I'm like, oh no. Now I have to deal with this board. Like, no matter what I do, I have to stop what he's playing. So I'm thinking right now, like, well, I just got to risk the him having shield here. I've got 1 spirit left in my spirit deck. Not much I can do. And he's going really wide, really big. Viserys at 6 attack now. A second Viserys in defense also will be at 6 attack if I let it sit. It's not a good spot. And Felix doesn't do anything for me, so I just have to risk the Leonite attack. I'm thinking, okay, well, if I play Felix here, maybe I can just punch the face down. I already know that I'm just
Yep.
stuck if he has a shield. So Felix goes into the defense to
Yep.
break the defense one, and Leonite I attempt to go into Viserys,
Yep.
and I get shielded, and that's pretty much game right there because he can just re-enchant the Viserys and go on from there.
All
All
right.
right, so now we're getting into our game two here. I'm just
It's
setting
like
my board back
noxious,
up.
but
So I just
nobody
lost there,
cares.
so I chose again to go first. My deck really
Um,
wants to set up
so
first.
exciting it's anything. I'll continue trying.
And we'll jump over to my opening hand, which was a Leonite, a Flaracne, a Foamy, Aphros, and Ambrosia. And I'm thinking, all right, I have the Leonite turn two if he breaks my Foamy. I have Flaracne, potentially if I feel like he's going to get super aggro. Plenty of options. And I got some recovery with Ambrosia. And I also think, okay, maybe I get two Aphros out my next turn and just do that and draw a bunch of extra cards for more answers. So, Foamy Defense pass.
Then I
It's a
will. I'll
pretty
go
non
a Texas
intimidating board
attack.
state. But then my opponent plays Viserys. I'm like, oh no, I
Vice.
can get some of the phone, but he's just gonna play
And ready to
Viserys.
attack
And
over.
then he drops a Foley, and I'm like,
Viceroys.
his board right now, that first Viserys is gonna be +2/+1 from Foley and the other Viserys, so it's at 7. Viserys in defense is at 7 attack as well, 3 defense. And I'm just like, what do I grab here? I mean, I can grab Vertakwa to deal with the Viserys. I can grab like another Foamy to go resilient. I can grab Smeltuga to try to get a big defense. I'm like, you know what? No, I'm
Okay.
going for my big, 2 drops. Just whatever, just go right into it. Not even, try and risk here. Just drop Leonite out, start
Gotcha.
attacking. And I was like, well, maybe instead of Leonite, drop
Let's
Flaracne,
attack
but if
over.
he gets any more attack on his Viserys, he could just attack over Flaracne. So I'm like, you know what? Run out that Leonite. That's what the deck's here to do. I'm playing Leonite.
Yep.
The Leonite's going to be able to break the defense Viserys, and now that Viserys left in play is only going to be at 6 attack. He needs to find a way to get it to 7. If he adds a Spirit to Viserys and attacks Leonite,
What
they
the?
both crash. And I figured if he does that, I would be in an
I'll
okay state because
go
then I could just play something
Router
else.
and attack.
And then he plays this spread. I'm like, okay, well, he
Viceroys.
just goes gets scythed now and pops my
Not really
Leonite,
anything
and
to
now I'm
say.
in a really bad spot
Viceroys.
because he found that scythe. And then he plays a
Well,
face down as well. I'm
that
like,
should
that
be
makes it
a
even worse. And he's gonna
yeah.
start, getting some serious back with
And
scythe.
yeah, with that, Viserys can attack over.
And I'm
I
just
will
like,
go
oh man, I
another
don't know what
defense
this
and
hand
then
does
go
against what he's
this way.
got. Like, this is gonna
Done.
be really rough. Um,
Here we go.
and he gets another Viserys out. So this board is super wide, really strong. I drew a
Probably
Nog, and I'm
smart.
like, that might have been one of the best things I could have drawn. And then he plays his Chariot, and I'm like, well, now I can't play runes. That Chariot just destroyed all my runes for the turn. I can't do anything with
What do
them.
I do?
I just
Viserys
have to play
attack.
Foamy Defense Pass and let him build his board even further. It's
Um,
I just at this point I'm like I lost this game, totally lost the game.
I'll go Rummage and
You
attack.
know, I'm staring
But
down
still,
two
oh,
giant
I got
Viserys, a
a
good
defense.
Sproutier, a big Rummagem. Got an equal link to start
And
disrupting my
yeah,
back row
I'll
if I
draw
do
back
get my stuff
to
out.
Ambrosia.
He
And
plays Ambrosia twice and
wait,
just
oh
gets
no,
back all of his health.
do I?
Like there's just no
Okay,
coming back
I
from
should have found my
this.
spirits first.
You would think,
I'll use the one. All
but
are
it
on my
just
board, that's
this game
why.
gets so
I could have gone
crazy
for
in a
pearls
couple
last
turns.
turn. Oh well, it doesn't matter.
Like he healed a bunch of
State of things. Okay.
spirits. He healed a
So with this
bunch. He's
board,
got a huge
I will
board.
first go
I'm
Rummagem
sitting
over.
here with just a foamy. He's got some bigger than my 8 defense Flaracne. It's just not a good day. So I'm like, well, what do I do here? Like, I could play a Kraken, stop attacking from something. I could just play something misenchanted and just go into Flaracne and hope the defense helps. It just was a really bad situation right now. So you know what? I don't. I think I went for just the other foamy, but maybe I grabbed a. Yeah, I grabbed the foamy.
Let's just say if you want
Gave
to.
it a
Viserys will attack over the foamy.
proper enchant because he's still able to attack through my
Let's go
foamy.
Viserys.
And here I think I pull out a small Tuga for the 5 defense, so he would stop crashing into me. I honestly, we'll find out in a second.
It's at 9 attack.
Oh yeah, I played Kraken to stop something from attacking, but he can
Proper
still
attack
attack
with
into
Kraken.
stuff, and I lose.
And Viserys attack you.
I
It
was
stopped me from recovering one.
pretty
Which technically it should have
pretty
put
rough.
back last turn, but I forgot, so I'm not
Yeah,
letting
and
you
Jacob just
go.
said that I stopped him from recovering one more with
Actually, that's a
Scythe. I was
win.
like, oh, that's a small win. So
Ambrosia
I'm like,
probably
all right,
wins
let
this,
me just see
but
what Nectar gets me. Draw two. I'm like, oh, hello, Rise from the Ashes. That might help here because I can get my Leonite back. But how do I deal with that Viserys? So I misenchant my Poseidon
okay.
here to get a Kinleo out.
Okay.
Nexus from the Kinleo with Poseidon to destroy his big giant Viserys. And then I rise from
Oh, okay.
using a bunch of water and to get my to get my Leonite back. So now I got Kinleo Leonite out, and I'm like, I'm back in this game. Like he's got nothing on board that really threatens this stuff. Like Kinleo's gonna die here, 100%. Like there's no way that Kinleo lives. I have 3 spirits left. His 12. And I'm just like double checking my spirits. Like I got two. I got one. Okay, let me Ambrosia get some back.
Okay.
So I pull out fire, a couple water.
Okay.
And I'm like, if somehow my Kinleo lives, it'll become a Floracne, but that's probably not happening. I'm probably going to get Aphros out in a moment,
Okay.
depending on his responses. And I just go and attack his other Viserys. I can't attack Kinleo into anything because he still has that Foley Forest out. Is what it is.
Yep. Yep. And I have spent
And he
one.
takes a damage. So now I'm like, all right, I'm back into it. I got something going. I got 5 spirits. I got a Kinley out. Kinley's gonna die though. What's he got left in his hand? He's really burned a lot of his Elestrals into play. The only way he's getting over Leonite with his deck is with either another Scythe or maybe he's running a 2-drop that I don't know about yet.
Ambrosia 2, 3.
But because I have some 2s in my deck, and he doesn't have 2-drops in his deck. It's really hard for him to get up to Leonite attack with all of his 1-drops, even with that Foley Forest out.
For a Giraffe Flora in defense.
Plays
Giraffe Flora
Giraffe
is good
Flora.
for
He's playing. He's got to go on to the
back
slow play. He's getting his
so
Viserys back. It's probably his biggest attacker in the deck besides Tectorus. He hasn't pulled a Tectorus yet. And then he plays a face down. I'm like, oh no, that face down could be a shield. It could be something to stop my Leonite. There's so much that face down represents. It was a rough time here. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
And Rummagem will attack over your Kindle.
And then it's like he switched over into defense even further. Okay, maybe he doesn't have a shield. Maybe he's afraid now, this Leonite. He just put another creature into defense. And then he flips over the Helios Chariot. I'm like, thank you. It's not a shield. I am free to do whatever I want this turn. I can set my runes. I don't have any runes to play. And I was like, you know what? Let me go full on damage here. I know I have my Tsunami face down in a moment, so I want to make sure my Leonite doesn't get turned into defense. So I'm going to play my Tsunami and just Nexus that water over to Leonite so it doesn't get affected by Tsunami. Crashing that Rummagem for 2 more damage. And right now, I'm feeling so good. This game is like in the bag. Like I can't think of anything that will just stop me. I have a shield now for Tectorus. I have a Tsunami for Sectorus. The only thing that stops me now is a shield. And as long as I dodge shield, I think I win this game.
Viserys in defense and pass.
And he plays Viserys in defense here and passes. And I'm just, well, thinking that's game. Like, what does he do now? Let me play a small Tuga. Let me play a small Tuga here. And I'm like, maybe I just misenchant and go for a second Leonite. With the second Leonite out, I don't have to be afraid of getting counter ruined out. So I'm like, yeah, let me set up for a second Leonite, protect this Maltuga with Tsunami, and work on that second Leonite that I have in my hand.
Okay, setting one.
And once you set a face down, I'm like, all right, yeah, it's good idea working on that second Leonite. And worst case scenario, if you didn't play a face down, I would just work on a second Floracne. Or rather, a Floracne second. To really slow down his answers. And I'm like, all right, ended Leonite, let's go. I got 2 Leonites. What do you have to answer them? And, I just started attacking. So, Leonite into one of his guys, and then Leonite again into another one of his guys.
Yep.
He had no response. And he's got one return to deal with my board before I think I really just close it out. He had 6 spirits left. I had 2. So he wasn't out of the game,
Oh, there's still
but
a chance.
it's really rough staring down 2 big 7
Right, sure,
attackers. When you can't use your earthquakes, you can't use your
Drawing down, let
laurels.
me search.
You
Attack
know, you can't
Taurus.
draw more cards with your Nectar of
And
the
pass.
Gods. You can't recover spirits with your
Please send down my
Ambrosias.
to get this
And he
one
passes his turn.
sooner.
I know he has Tectatorus, but I know I have ways to defend my
Yep.
stuff from Tectatorus. And I
Yep.
do my swinging.
Have to do
My
Tech
opponent
Taurus
drew, plays a Tectaurus in defense. And once he plays Tectaurus in defense, he just like, okay, that's pretty much it.
Rise from the Ambrosia doesn't help me. But yeah,
Yeah.
game 3.
And then there's nothing you could do there. The Ambrosia is locked out, you know, he's stuck on all those Evoke Runes, and we'll jump into game 3. I draw my hand. I look at my hand, like, you know, 2 Amphiorix, Hephaestus, Tsunami Shield, kind of like my first game. Like, you know what, that gets me to my Leonite on turn 2 if I draw it. I have ways to I can just let Amphiorix go to the underworld and bring it back way later on in the game. I'll run with this. It's a little risky,
If I
but
just had Tech Taurus really early on, I would
it's you know, it'll do something, I think. And he plays 3/5 and gets he goes searches and out his scythe. I'm like, okay, this is a bad hand to keep against Sprouter and Scythe. Well, let me just misenchant this Amphiorix real quick and pass back to my opponent. And I'm already thinking, okay, I should have mulliganed this hand. It doesn't have anything going for it. I have no draw except for Hephaestus. I know he runs a bunch of Equal Links in the deck. I know he has Scythe now. Scythe plus Equal Links is just going to blow up my back row. I'm on the back foot already, and it's only turn 2. And there's the Equal Links. And I saw the Equal Links, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm not in a good spot now.
Scythe onto Equal Links.
Yeah, that Scythe is...
Nexus to Equal Links, targeting the one behind your Amphiorix.
And he targets my Tsunami, so I chain my Tsunami to the ability to knock his stuff into defense. But I don't have a way to get over Equal Links, and he's going to keep Equal Links in play to keep throwing stuff at me. Didn't really know what I wanted to do here. I'm thinking maybe I could play Hephaestus and go pull out a hammer or an early Trident and try to maybe pile onto Amphiorix. And then he plays that Fully Force. I'm like, maybe that's what I have to do. I didn't know what to do. It's a rough spot already. Like, Earth is such a tempo heavy deck. Now when you can break the Earth tempo, it does slow down a lot, but it has some strong answers in its cards. And then I realized that that Equal Links to that 6 defense because of Fully Forest. I have no way with Hephaestus to get over that because Hephaestus will only get me effectively a +2 attack on anything I play here. Because I get Trident out for 2 attack, or I can get Hammer that would only be 2 attack. So I just have to play an Amphiorix in defense, and I was like, you know what, let me properly enchant this one. And pass back, and it's more or less just a wash from this. Like, if I'll just speed through this. He, you know, Nexus is back to the Sprouter, blows up my shield and back row. He plays Drops Elite to just cycle some cards in his hand. Plays Viserys, attacks my Amphiorix to get out a new Viserys. And this is what I'm staring down the board with that Amphiorix. I have a Floracne. It's still not big enough. I have a Kinleo now. Not going to do a lot. You know, I go just Hephaestus, search out Hammer, so I have something to next. I don't even search, sorry. I just use it for something to get Kinleo fodder with. I send it to the Amphiorix. And I'm still looking at all these massive attackers I have no way to deal with.
You want to play that back and do that? I'm fine if you want to.
And then I was like, you know, I had a better play here. I shouldn't have done that, but I should have, you know, used Hephaestus to search out an artifact and then Nexus with another flyer so that I could get Phoenix above something. I attack his defense thing twice for the meme and get ready to just get blown out here by Hectorus, Giant Viserys. Attacks me down for a ton. I get a, you know, I just pull out my Amphiorix back. Realize I don't have 2 fire. Could go to Flacne at 8, but it just doesn't do enough to win game. And that's kind of where it ends. I get blown out by just crazy earth tempo stuff. Game 1, I kind of held my own. Game 2, I completely crushed it with, Rise From. And then Game 3, I just couldn't get there over all the big attackers. And honestly, the lack of removal in my deck. I think this deck does need some more removal besides Kinleo, especially for my opponents when they're going so wide like that.
Okay.
And I just Rise From for some memes here
So that'd be
and go to
3
0
attack would
basically and
be at
die. But yeah, that's the game. I hope you like the deck. And I got another deck coming in a day or two, which will be a water ramp deck versus Quino, another guy who was in the top 8, I believe, of the prototype tournament. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Just if you don't mind, you could send me some love. Whoa, that's not what I meant to do. There we go. If you don't mind, if you've watched the whole video, I do appreciate any likes and subscribes. It just boosts my ego. I'm trying to become the #1 Elestrals YouTuber, which, well, Elestrals exclusive YouTuber, which right now I think it's just Jay Johnny is up there at like 150. I'm at like 140 at the time. Like, help a guy out. Other than that, see you guys next time, and peace.